with the Philadelphia Eagles banding the committee together once again, it should look a little more apparent as to who the focal point of the run game should be in talking about the former second round pick. Or does it look as clear? Let's find out. What is going on, Bird brothers and sisters out there? Lindy Endzone is back for the touchdown, taking the lead for the Philadelphia Eagles, one video at a time. Yes, I understand that I took quite a bit of a break once more, but this one was, this came up abruptly. For people that follow me on Twitter, I have posted up there last week that we unfortunately had a death in the family that I had to take bereavement of, and just a quick message to y'all to keep your family as close as you possibly can. If being time is as invaluable as it is, you don't know when your day is going to come, and some people's days are numbered, and when God calls, that's you got to answer. But in the case of losing my grandmother, I understand now that she is in a better place, and I have come to terms with it a while ago. But I know from that moment forward that she's going to continue to be with me in spirit in everything that I do. So that's just going to give me extra dedication to, everything that I set my mind to. So I know that she's watching over me now and the content that I'm creating, and and as goes for all my supporters as well. I'm truly grateful for this, that I continue to say almost on a video basis, but it's certainly it's certainly organic the way that I'm thankful for all of this. And speaking of that thankfulness, did not expect one of my most recent videos to blow up the way it did, and well, maybe you can attest to the fact that it depends on the topic of discussion, with some Eagles players being a fan base punching bag at the moment and I'm referring to the video that I made about Brandon Graham talking to Derek Barnett and saying that Barnett has said that he has unfinished business to carry out and prove to the Eagles fan base that he is going to be in a better spot going forward and actually going to contribute like a first round pick should. And that video has surpassed 1,100 views, and that is my first 1,000 plus video on the channel, and it's surreal. It's absolutely surreal. With that, let's get into the discussion here, as this is already at 4 minutes. I'm gonna try and make this as brief as I possibly can. So, the reason I have the title of the video the way it is and revisiting an old conversation is because I talked about this last year, and this conundrum with Miles Sanders in being the number one running back of this football team. Now, as we have seen in this offseason that the Eagles have retained Boston Scott, he is coming back. So that really solidifies the concept of the running back by committee system that the Eagles have had intact for the last few years now, stemming from the Doug Peterson era, and a little bit of Chip Kelly, but not so much. And we seen it in the beginning of Carson Wentz's rookie year, where you've had guys like Wendell Smallwood and Kenyon Barner in the mix with Darren Sproles and Ryan Matthews, and now Miles Sanders in there with Jordan Howard and guys like that. So it's still going with Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, Kenny Gainwell. But as we know, going into year two, the sophomore season for Kenny Gainwell, it has been said, and I think Eagles fans know this by now, that the Phillies got some pretty big plans for the evolution and the next step in Kenny Gainwell's game. Now, where does that put a guy like Miles in all this? Well, again, we're in another situation and trying to figure out what Miles Sanders is to this football team. For a football team that runs a offense that's run first, and well, you can debate that all you want, and going back to this previous season where the Eagles seemed to have an identity crisis, and a lot of that was schematically based, a lot of that was personnel based, and a lot of that was just a lack of experience in certain coaching and personnel groups. And then when you boil down to it at as small of a crux as you possibly can, well, one of the biggest things that has damaged where Miles Sanders is right now is him being able to stay on the field on a consistent basis between these ticky-tack injuries, and you had the hand issue last year. He can't seem to get off of this ankle. I think there was a hamstring at some point in time, and it's plagued him really ever since his rookie season. From what I remember off the top of my head, I think that's when the ankle issues started to agitate him and linger over the course of his career so far. But now the vice seems to be getting tighter and tighter and tighter, with him entering a contract year and this team trying to figure out what he is ultimately going to be for them. Now, going forward, do I want to make another prediction for him? I have no idea. I truly don't, because at this point in time, you have no idea how many games he's going to actually play when he's averaged about 11 or 12 or so ever since his rookie year. And with the NFL regular season extended by an extra game to 17, you would hope at this point that he can play 15 out of 17 instead of only 11 or 12. With him losing time on the field, that just damages parts of his consistency and being that number one running back, and having to put the Eagles in a situation where they have to resort to the number two or the number three, splitting the bulk of the load that Miles was getting when he was on the field. And it sets the offense back a little bit, because that gives the defense a little bit of an easier time to scheme accordingly to the limitations that the offense has at that point in time when Miles is not on the football field. So I think for me, it's just him not staying healthy enough. We already know that he has plentiful talent. He's shown it on numerous occasions. The kid is still averaging 5 yards a carry for his career. We know how well he can catch out of the backfield, especially on those wheel routes that can certainly damage a defense, no doubt. But nonetheless, when you boil it down, it's just about him staying healthy, and I think that's one of the biggest negatives for him. But if I had to guess where going into this year, where it puts him into next year, depending where the Eagles are from a running back standpoint, and this is going to completely be determined by the growth of Kenny Gainwell and what they ultimately see him as, and if they manage to keep Boston Scott again, and kind of put a Band-Aid over the wound and like quick patches over time. depending on some of the growth of the guys in the practice squad and below the main core of those three running backs, there's a lot of factors that you can put into consideration here. But do not be surprised if you see a similar contract negotiation to how it all worked out for Derek Barnett in when it comes to Miles Sanders. If he does just enough, that may be the kind of contract that he could look at. The Eagles are a team that see running backs as a dime a dozen. It doesn't sweat them if they lose a kid like this because, well, obviously the committee approach has worked for how many years now in this offense, even with, Doug Peterson now going to Nick Sirianni. And, well, they feel at this point that they can almost put anybody back there when you have such consistent and elite offensive line play that, the Eagles have benefited from just by continuing their formula in the draft of building from the trenches out. So, with that, if I can summarize everything, is time running out for Miles? Yeah, it certainly is, if he wants the money that he's looking for. Now, of course, he's the type of player that puts his head down and he's all focused 100% of the time. And I do like that he intangibly shares some of those same qualities to Jalen Hurts. But if only he could be a little bit healthier. Maybe we can look at him more as the definitive number one running back. So those are my thoughts on the Miles Sanders situation as as I have brought up this conversation last year trying to assess where he is as the running back of this football team, and well, the carousel is spinning once again. But let me know down in the comments what you guys think on this situation with Miles, where you think he is going to ultimately where he's going to ultimately finish. If you have any stat predictions, what kind of contract you think he's going to ultimately get. There's a lot of determining factors, but at the end of the day, we have to hope that he can play all. We have to hope that he can, well, let's say at least play 15 out of 17 games. For me, that's what I'm looking for. But you guys have plenty of thoughts as well. Leave them down in the comments, as I always love to read them. And with that, I'm going to get out of here, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you once more sticking around and hear me blabber. Babble blabber. What the hell is that? But hear me babble on about my favorite team. And with that, Lindy's catching you guys later. Fly Eagles fly. Bleed green. Stay safe, y'all. See you next time. Take care.